How's it going, you guys? Today we are taking a look at the Vanguard for the good, the bad, and what could possibly be changed or reworked. We've already covered the tactical and the assault, and we're kind of working our way down the line here. So if you haven't caught those two videos, then feel free to go and check those out. I've already covered kind of a lot, and in these videos coming up, you may hear some, a lot of recycled terms because there's kind of very specific things that we kind of hate about this game. So yeah, if you want to go and check those out, feel free, and if not, welcome in. So this is just basically a small mini series I'm doing where I work down the tree and I talk about kind of the good things that I like about the classes, the bad things, and kind of cover a couple of things that maybe could be changed or reworked that would kind of make it more enticing to play. We do these with no script. We're just kind of off the top, just to kind of remove the bias of sitting down and kind of like writing up a script, and we kind of just want to focus on just going over it and covering it off the top of my head, just to remove any possibilities of me like going and like pre-writing down an opinion and hard sticking to it. So we're kind of just going off of the top of the head here. So first of all, we're going to cover up the weapons, and then we're going to go and move on into the ability and the perk tree, and we'll move from there. So starting off with the Vanguard's primaries, a very decent lineup of primaries here. They've got some good coverage with the Instigator bolt carbine. It's got very good variants, and it's got a really strong heroic. I think that covers a very strong area of the class. It covers a little bit of range, covers some close. It's kind of a very good kind of, it's mushed together into just being generally useful. You got the bolt carbine. This is like one of the most versatile weapons in my opinion, because you can go from fast firing SMGs with tons of ammo to semi-automatic, high headshot multiplier ranged weapons that don't really seem to have like a lot of damage drop off. So I really do like this, and because you are a Vanguard and you're most of the time going to be up close, even though you do have decent ranged options in the form of this carbine here, the Galthamore Crusade, or with the Instigator, you do have decent ranged options, and you can stay pretty far away. I just find that this gives you the option to shoot far away with say the Aphelion Liberation variant. You can shoot far away with accuracy and great success, and you can also cover close distance very well. So I do like that, but we're not here to glaze the bolt carbine variants, so we'll move on. And then we got the Oculus bolt carbine. This is also another pretty decent option. It's got really good headshot multipliers on all of its variants. This one right here in particular really shines with the 2 times headshot multiplier. Lots of these other variants are also really good. You got really good ammo economy for them, so it's got great coverage. And then you also go ahead and get the melter rifle as a nice little cherry on top. This is super useful because you don't always want to be running like a bolt weapon, and you're not particularly locked to just using a bolt weapon, and it adds a little bit of variety. So I think that is very needed, very good, and I think that it synergizes on the Bulwark class, or oh, Jesus, what am I talking about? The Vanguard class very well, because again, you're going to be most of the time, or at least most of the game, or at least half of the game, I would say. Sorry, at least half of the game you are going to be like up close and fighting. So like usually when you're in an engagement, you'll kind of start off from far. You can get some range damage off with like the Instigator or the Oculus, and then you're pretty much always going to, one way or another, be using your grapnel eventually, and you're going to find yourself close. So having the Melta rifle to focus mainly on close, and then having other options to focus on ranged and close, and then also just having options to focus on close as far as bolt weapons is super good. I think that the primary weapons and their variants are in a really good place for the Vanguard, and I think that it definitely has like some of the best adaptability, some of the best on-field adaptability of like all the classes, maybe only really being rivaled by tactical, but we won't really get into that. So yeah, I think that the primary weapons are in a really good spot, and there's not really anything more that I have to say about that. So the secondaries here, we've got the standard bolt pistol and the heavy bolt pistol, the kind of general gold standard secondaries, and then we've also got the Inferno pistol and the Neo Volkite. We are missing out on the plasma pistol here. So I don't know. The Inferno pistol I do really like for the Vanguard. I think this one is a really good addition here. The Neo Volkite, I feel like, I don't really know if a lot of people feel this way, but I'm not a fan of the Neo Volkite. I think that it just gets outplayed, by so many other weapons. Just kind of in terms of almost anything. Like, I feel like this just doesn't have as good crowd control as, like the Inferno pistol has. It doesn't really have really good single target damage, kind of like the heavy bolt pistol has. I don't know. If there's any Neo Volkite stands in my comment section, go ahead and let me know, like, what am I missing about this weapon? I know that I don't even have it relicked here yet. I tried to give this thing a chance, and I just couldn't, man. Like, it's kind of funny. You see how much I really don't like a weapon by the fact that I've got a fully maxed out account and I don't even have this thing relicked here. But I did try to give it a shot, and it just wasn't it, man. It just wasn't it for me. It doesn't restore enough CHP in comparison to other weapons, and it's got good range on it, yeah, but when are you really using range on this thing? And so that's kind of a main reason why I don't think that it really synergizes well with Vanguard, because I don't know, I guess you could use it to kind of like melt enemies in the distance and then grapnel in close and use like a primary weapon, but I think that there's just better options. And as far as the Inferno Pistol goes, I do really like the Inferno Pistol on here, because maybe you don't want to waste your primary slot on the Melter Rifle, and so you want to use, I don't know, like an Instigator, for instance, to have like long range coverage and also like mid-range engagement. Like if you've got the Heroic, you've got really good close and mid-range engagement as well as long range with the scope. And then maybe you want, like, say you're in the heat of battle and you do want a Melta, but you don't want to compromise the, you know, getting rid of such a strong primary option. So having the Inferno Pistol is very, very nice to kind of cover that gap, and I do run the Inferno Pistol quite often. It also does synergize pretty well with the Power Axe, I find. It is quite unfortunate that it doesn't have the strongest, or, you know, even close to the strongest gun strike capability, so, you know, that definitely is a downside, but that's not that big of a deal. And then, you know, as far as these go, they're kind of just gold standard weapons in my opinion. As far as secondaries go, you can't really go bad with them. You know, they're not particularly amazing. You know, the heavy bolt pistol gets overshadowed by the plasma pistol, but you don't really have that here, so I'd say that it's a really good substitute with the firepower variant for getting back CHP. I wouldn't really say that using the Retribution's Bequest here is particularly useful. I would kind of avoid it on the Vanguard. I just find that you've got so many other ways of staggering enemies out of calls that you don't really need to waste your secondary slot on the Heroic here. But the Heroic bolt pistol is still a good option. I think that this is just generally a good option for any class that has it, which is like pretty much every single class, I believe. This thing is just really, really good. It's got great CHP recovery with its 3-round burst. It's accurate, you know, it's good. It's got good ammo economy, so a little bit of Heroic bolt pistol glazing there, even though in most of my videos you'll always see me running the heavy bolt. So it's kind of just up to you, really up to preference. But I do think that the secondaries are in a pretty good spot too. I never really feel like I'm lacking options or lacking coverage for anything that I need. If I need close range coverage and horde clear, I'll grab the Inferno Pistol. If I need CHP recovery and gun strike damage, I'll take the heavy. If I need overall versatility, usually I take the Heroic. So yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. For the melee weapons, I think that we're in an okay spot. We're kind of in the tactical situation, except we've got the Power Axe, which is what I think makes the Vanguard really, really stand out, and why I think that if the tactical did have the Power Axe as well, I think that it would be a good spot to have the tactical. That was kind of one of my big gripes in that video, if you didn't see it, was just the fact that we were locked to the chainsword and the combat knife in the tactical class. And I know that Vanguard is supposed to be a little bit more melee-centric, but I just don't really understand that why the Power Axe can be here and not over there when it's got, you know, I mean, all of them are kind of weird in the way that their stats kind of have like different impacts based on the different weapon, but the variants for the chainsword already have stronger stats, and it's got the Heroic variant, whereas the Power Axe doesn't, and it's got less stats, but it does have the secondary ability to do the power backstep and the overhead dash, you know, that the chainsword doesn't have. But I don't really see why the tactical couldn't have the Power Axe, really. You know, it's a one-handed weapon, it's fairly fast, it's useful, it's versatile. I think that that would really move the tactical up to being like a really gold standard class. It already is a really gold standard class. I know I'm just kind of I'm kind of bitching and complaining in truth, but I don't know. I just don't see why. And I think that that's what makes the Vanguard feel so damn good, and why this is my favorite class. For those who do not know, that I'm definitely play the Vanguard the most, and I have the most fun playing the Vanguard of all the classes. And I think that that's just why. I just feel like I have so much on battlefield versatility going on with like really good primary ranged options, and the Vanguard has all of my favorite primary availability that the tactical has, except for the heavy bolt rifle. I have been really liking the heavy bolt rifle lately, so that's a loss. But it's got every other one that I really, really like. I guess the tactical also does have the regular bolt rifle that has the combi melta. That's another one that we're kind of missing out on there. But still, I don't know. I think that the Vanguard's got really good primary coverage. It's got good heroic options. It's got decent secondary options that I like to cover my tracks, and then it's got the power axe, and of course the power axe is like my favorite weapon in the game right now. Maybe that's why I'm so biased on the tactical getting it, because if just kind of melee just kind of feels a little bit stale with only 2 options, and it would be nice to kind of mix it up between the 3. But anyways, doesn't matter. Point is that I think Vanguard's in a pretty good spot with 3. I think 3 melee weapon options is like kind of like the baseline that a class should have, maybe minus sniper. I think sniper does really only deserve 1 because they have such strong primary capabilities and melee isn't really their focus. That's the one mulligan that they'll get away with, but I think that tactical and any other class that is melee-centric should have at least 3 options, and I think the power axe is the best contender to go to the tactical class. So anyways, as far as weapons go, Vanguard, very, very good. I love the weapon availability and the versatility, and nothing really needs to change there. I think that it's perfectly set where it is, in my opinion, and you can take my word for it, because I probably have the most time on Vanguard of all the classes, and it could be argued like, oh, it could use another melee or another primary weapon, but I'm pretty much, I wouldn't call myself a Vanguard main. I'm not a main of any class. I play all classes fairly equally, but I do have the most fun with Vanguard, and I do consider Vanguard my favorite class, and I personally think that it is in a good spot weapon-wise. So okay, so getting into the perk tree and the ability here, we immediately go over to the grapnel launcher. So the grapnel launcher propels you to an enemy, allowing you to perform a diving kick, and its starting perk is contested health regenerates 50% faster. So this one is kind of confusing terminology, and even I actually don't really know which part, because what does it mean by 50% faster? Because you don't regenerate contested health unless you're dealing damage. So I actually but this is where my quote unquote professional opinion kind of fails you guys. So if you know what this means exactly, let me know in the comments, because I actually don't know. So I could go and Google, but I'm gonna leave it at that. Basically what I interpret this as is that when you deal damage, you're regenerating 50% more, or some people seem to think that the you just lose it at 50% faster, but I don't think that's the case. Because otherwise it would say contested health drains 50% slower or whatever. They've got very specific terminology that we've already covered in I believe the assault class, that they would just write that instead. So my likely culprit here is that you actually get 50% more back, and when you're playing high difficulties, you're always fighting for your health, and maybe that's another thing that makes the Vanguard feel so strong all the time, is just that you are able to contest your health so easily, and then you also have so many healing perks. So I think Vanguard, this is going to be a very glazy video, I think, because I think Vanguard is like in the best spot. Maybe that's controversial, don't know. I never know what my opinions are controversial, because I don't spend too much time on like the subreddit or anything like that, or like watching other Space Marine videos, so I don't really know what other people's opinions are. But is that controversial? Maybe, but I think personally Vanguard is like in the best spot. Yeah, as far as like almost everything, but we'll get into that. So yeah, so very useful. I do really like the grapnel launcher. Recharges pretty decently fast. You can make some decent builds with it. We'll get into that down here. But yeah, for now, we'll just go into here and cover the perks. So first off, we've got moving target. Killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters restores ability charge by 5%. This is one of the perks that is decent. I think that perks like this do have kind of a belonging in the tree. But I just think that this perk in general is pretty bad, because you rarely kill enemies from a distance of more than 30 meters. You could go the ranged option and take the instigator or something like that and get lots of value out of this if you specifically try to do that, but I just think there's better ways to play as the Vanguard. So I think this is kind of like an F tier perk. We're not really doing like a perk tier list here, but perks like this I do like to see, because it kind of gives you like something to do in the form of killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters, which isn't like super difficult to do. 30 meters isn't as big as you probably think it is in the game, but yeah, and then gives you 5% ability charge back, which is actually a pretty strong secondary or just like ability of it. But yeah, I just find I never get use out of this, but if you go out of your way, you could get pretty good use out of that. Melee Mastery, this is the first one that we're going to talk about. So if you've watched any of my other 2 videos, you kind of get the gist of this already, so you know, you understand the point. But melee damage increases by 10% against Majoris level and higher enemies. Perks like this need to go. So I'm gonna I've already kind of, you know, grazed over this in my other 2 videos of the classes, so I don't want to spend too much time like digging into it for the people that have already seen those and are probably sick of me saying it and all of that jazz. So if you want to hear me kind of like go over it a little bit more initially, go and check out the tactical video that I did on this, or the assault video. But yeah, so I basically, to sum it up, TLDR, I think that any just stat damage increase perk just needs to get moved into the weapon trees, and that's basically the gist of it. I don't think that perk trees have a place for that. We want to see more perks that change the way that you play the game and the way that you kind of behave on the battlefield, other than just saying, here's 10% damage against Majoris level and higher enemies, go have fun with that. That's boring. That's stupid. Don't like. So, moving down to upper hand, after a perfectly timed parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose control upon taking heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. I think this is a definite win. These perks are gold standards for the perk tree. I think every class should have an option somewhere in their tree for something like this, and I think that there pretty much is. Most classes do seem to have that, and they all seem to have different ways of acquiring it in some different ways. Like some people parry, like get a perfect parry for it. Some people get a perfect dodge for it. Some people do like a ground slam for the assault and stuff like that. I think there's more examples, but I'm not gonna get too carried away with this. But everybody has a way of doing this, and I think that that's good because it's a perk that gives you, you know, a prerequisite. You know what you're doing, and then you get a benefit for it, and then a timer. So you have to make use of it while you can, and then remember to re-up it when you can. Moving on into duelist, perfect parry and perfect block windows increased by 50%. This is a noob trap. If you go ahead and grab this perk and get too comfortable, when you take this perk off and play other classes, you're going to get dunked on because your timing is going to be off and you're not going to understand why. This is why. It's a noob trap. I wouldn't touch this. I don't think it's like the worst thing to have for people who like are on lower difficulties and aren't hardcore players and just want it to be a little bit easier to perfect parry and block. That's fine, but if you're trying to be like a top player, and I mean, I'm not a top player. I'm not even like, probably not even like the top 10% of players, but even I know, you know, like if you're playing on absolute or hard stratagems and you're running duelist, the moment you take this off, you're going to throw your timing off pretty hard, unless you're like really versed in, you know, playing all of the different defense types and things like that. I don't know. I don't think this really has a place. I think that should go, in my opinion, and just be something else that's more useful that isn't noob trappy. Close combat focus, you take 20% less range damage. I don't really know how I feel about just a stat range damage decrease as well. The Vanguard kind of needs it, I guess, but there are other options. Like, for instance, we've got Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. Things like this are what we like to see because there's something to do, there's something you gain from it, and then there's a timer. So just to reiterate on that, this one is just you take 20% less range damage. Is it useful? Absolutely. Are you going to take it because it's useful? Yeah, probably. There is a better option, in my opinion, in Conviction. We'll get into that in a second. But it's just, perks like this are just boring. They don't add anything. You just are taking less damage, and there's nothing that you're doing to keep it up, which makes it less exciting and less interesting. This needs to change. Definite rework here. There needs to be something. Like, I don't know, maybe if you hit a perfect parry, or if you hit a perfect dodge, you take 20% less damage. Or maybe even throw in that perk that is, if you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you take 20% less range damage, or something like that. That gives you like something to work for, something to kind of like give you the benefit a little bit. And I don't know if a lot of people that watch these videos are going to be like, well, that's stupid. Like, that you're just making the perk harder for yourself. But that's the point. We want higher skill caps. No, isn't that the point of everybody complaining about the skill trees? Is that we want more versatility? We want more things to have to proc. Like, that's why like MMOs and things like that are so popular among people, because you need to basically like carefully time your abilities and your uptimes and what is proccing what and keeping this and skill synergies. That's what makes those interesting for people. And I think Space Marine 2 would benefit greatly from having a little bit more of that. Not total MMO, you know, we don't need to get too fucking sweaty with it, but having more perks that you need to remember that you have and then hit different criteria to make things happen, and then you get your reward, you know? So I don't know, something to do with this, you know, some way to kind of like make this feel more rewarding for making it proc, and then maybe increasing the range damage value a little bit. Conviction: when your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. This one is one that I'm gonna let slide as well. I love Conviction. It's always useful on almost every single class. There's nothing that you like, yes, there is something you need to meet, but it's not something you need to go out of your way to meet. It's something that gets met, and then you get the benefit for it. So perks like that also fit as a gold standard, in my opinion. Because yes, while you're not like, it's not like you need to get a gun strike and then you take 25% less damage or something like that, right? But this is like a defensive countermeasure. So if you had in this one here, so say for instance, this one is 25% less health damage. What if this one got changed to 25% less damage as well? But then this, you had like an offensive way to proc this. So after a gun strike, you take 25% less damage. And then this one is after your armor gets fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage or something like that. Then you've got options. Do you want to proc it by being offensive, or do you want to proc it by being defensive? I think that could be a decent way. Don't take anything I say as gospel right now, because we're just spitting off the top of the head right now. So maybe that's a bad idea, but you know, having some way to contest defensive perks with other defensive perks, or like ways to stay alive, kind of giving you more options for a different way to play, and very specifically having something to meet to give you the ability that it's trying to give you, instead of just saying, here's 20%, get the fuck out of my face. You know, that's just boring. So we got Retribution. When your ranged weapons magazine is empty, melee damage increases by 25%. This is decent. I think that this is a terrible perk, but it's got the right headspace. When your ranged weapons magazine is empty, that's the criteria to meet, and then melee damage increased by 25%. It's one of those perks that you need to remember you have. It's one of the ones that you need to remember to make use of if you take it, but it is fairly niche and it's not super useful, so I really don't take this. There's much better options. I would say it's got the right idea, but a rework probably is in order to have something else going on other than melee damage for that time. Consecutive Execution is a gold standard perk, in my opinion. This gives you a criteria to meet, and it gives you a reward, and it's got a nice cooldown, so it's something you need to remember that you have, something that you need to remember to proc. You need to remember to use your grenades within the cooldown if you want to make use of more. Very, very good. I think this perk is good on every class, and maybe some classes shouldn't have it, but the classes that do, it's extremely useful, very beneficial. It's always going to get value, and it's very rewarding when it does get value. So super, super good. Those are the perks that we love to see. Honed reactions: when your health is less than 50%, your perfect dodge window is doubled. I think this is another noob trap. This could be definitely something else. I don't really know what. I don't really have any ideas on the spot. It's one of those situations again where it kind of has the right idea. You know, it's a defensive countermeasure. When your health is less than 50%, your perfect dodge window gets increased. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of rewarding you for getting to 50%. It's useful while you're there, but if you're above 50%, you're not using it. And with a lot of perks like Unmatched Zeal or your signature over here to get increased health, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to go above 50% health a lot of the time. Where was I? This one. I lost myself for a second there. There's a pretty good chance that you're going to go above 50% health a lot of the time, and that's just counteractive. You know, you're basically always working towards or against this perk, because this perk is dragging you one way, and multiple of the other perks in your arsenal, which are arguably your best perks, are dragging you another way. So yeah, not useful at all. Consecutive Execution is kind of the grand master of this section here, so, which is what we don't like to see. It'd be nice to have two adjacent perks that are equally as useful utility-wise that you could use for something. I don't know what, but yeah, something needs to change, because if you're using these two perks over Consecutive Execution, you're kind of wasting value, in my opinion, unless you're building very, very specifically for Retribution. Team perks: I think that the team perks that Vanguard have, he has some very, very good gold standard perks. Melee Champion isn't one of them. All squad members deal 15% more melee damage. Stat damage increase, no prerequisite, boring. Go away. We don't want you. Unmatched Zeal obviously undermines that by giving you a stim every single time you kill an extremist for lethal and absolute and above. That's just fucking insane. Sometimes you can get like 15 stims worth of value out of this perk, which you don't even get 15 stims on a match, period. So having an Unmatched Zeal Vanguard on your team just yields untold amounts of value, you know? Well, not untold, I guess. It's very told. Inner Fire, all squad members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majoris level or higher enemies. This one is another gold standard. It gives you something to do, and it rewards you very, very well for it, and every single class benefits from having their ability charge increased by 15% significantly. So very, very valuable for your team. Unfortunately, it does also kind of get undermined by Unmatched Zeal. I think Unmatched Zeal is just way too good to get rid of, even for how good Inner Fire is, but either of them are extremely useful, very, very valuable. Those are two gold standard team perks. This one's doo-doo caca, so we'll move on. Restless Fortitude, we already talked about this one very, very briefly from the other section. We kind of jumped over here for a second. After Diving Kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. This gives you something to do. It gives you a good benefit for it and a timer. Boom. Love to see that. Shockwave, Diving Kick additionally deals 5 damage in a 5-meter radius. That alters the way that you're going to play and where you're going to use your grapnels. Gold standard. Love to see that. Collateral damage, Diving Kick deals 50% more damage and additionally damages enemies on the way to the grapnel launcher's target. Boom, gives you a huge buff just in raw damage, and gives you a new way to play and how you're going to set up your grapnel launchers, because you want to try to set up and hit more things on the way as well. Super awesome perk. Love it. This is like the ideal right here. This is the ideal like perk tree. Like all of these are viable. All of these are interesting. You know, that's what we need for every single slot. Should be kind of like that in a way. Zone of Impact. Performing a finisher with a grapnel deals damage to enemies nearby. Boom. Instantly affects the way that you're playing. You want to go ahead and get finishers. And if you're running the Tactical Prowess perk, you get finishers a lot easier with 33% health. So boom, it's got signature synergy for your ability. Very awesome. And it's just generally got good use of its own. If you put an enemy into execute and you go ahead and grapnel to him, it's going to damage everything around it. Alters the way that you play. Tenacity, after a ranged kill of a Majoris level or higher enemy, Diving Kick's damage increases by 130%, cooldown is 15 seconds. Do I even need to repeat myself on this? Prerequisite, kill a Majoris level or higher enemy. Reward, Diving Kick's damage is increased. Cooldown, 15 seconds. Easy. Tip of the spear, enemies hit by Diving Kick take 15% more range damage for 10 seconds. I think that could maybe be buffed to 20%. Maybe that's a little too generous. 15% is actually really strong as it is. Or maybe the time should just maybe go up. Maybe it should be 15% more range damage for 15 seconds would be a nice little buffer. But yes, again, prerequisite, enemies hit by Diving Kick. Buff, Diving Kick, enemies hit by Diving Kick take 15% more range damage, and timer, 10 seconds. So you gotta make value of it while you can. Thrill of the Fight, after a perfectly timed parry, block, or dodge, you take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This is a very good survivability perk. Gives you something to do. You're trying to get parry, blocks, or dodges. You take less damage for 5 seconds. I think that you could probably stand to have that damage or that timer increased to 10 seconds maybe, or maybe that would make it too strong to uptime, but I don't know. Not a super good perk, still useful, still can get lots of value from it. There's other perks that are probably better, but I'm giving it a thumbs up because it's got a good, you know, it's got the right idea, you know. Grim Determination, when grapnel launcher is on cooldown, weapon damage increases by 15%. This one's also kind of got the right idea because it's got something to do and it gives you a benefit for it, but it is a little bit dry, it's a little bit stale, and I don't think that it's good because it's one of those noob trap perks that it basically noob traps you into always wanting to use your grapnels the moment that you have them and stay in cooldown. You don't always want that. It's nice to have that backup buffer of having your ability for when you really need it, when you really need to make use of it. This is always trapping you into saying, well, my weapon damage increases by 15% if I just get rid of this grapnel launcher. And so it's enticing you to, you know, go ahead and use your abilities in inopportune times for a measly 15% increased damage while it's on cooldown. So not a good perk, right idea, but F tier perk. Combat Readiness, grapnel launcher recharges 20% faster. I've talked about this, I think, in both my previous videos for tactical and assault, that it is nice to always have an ability somewhere in the gear section that allows you to re-up your ability faster. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. Assault's also got 20% faster, but then it also alternatively has the ability to kill or to get a kill for 10%. The ground slam perk there. That one is also a really good addition to complement that, because then you get to choose. Do you want to do that perk, or do you just want a 100% uptime, 20% faster recharge? I think that's really good. I think that's really healthy. I feel like 9 times out of 10 people are still going to choose the 10% in recharge on kill, because it is definitely better, and it's proven itself to be better in every aspect almost, because you're killing so many things all the time. You're just getting so much value out of it. But still, for the lower end players that maybe just don't want to worry about that and just have their their things recharge 20% faster is going to always, like, that's very, very nice and very complimentary. Or if you're doing the dodge build, it's a pretty niche build for it. Not a lot of people seem to really run it, but if you're running the jetpack dodge build, then you're not really going to be getting kills with your jetpack. So having just the 20% recharge is going to complement that. So it still has lots of value being there. And then for our signature is Tactical Prowess. This is a definite gold tier perk. I absolutely love this thing. Grapnel Launcher can activate a finisher not only on incapacitated enemies, but those who have 33% less health, except Terminus, of course. But another effect, after performing a finisher with the Grapnel Launcher, it restores its charge, so you can keep on plowing through. This is like my favorite all-time build to run with the Vanguard. It's super, super strong, super, super useful, especially when you're killing lots of extremists. Getting them to 33% health isn't like the hardest thing ever, but sometimes getting that last 33% down is like the bane of people's existence. So just hitting them with a grapnel and just getting rid of them is so useful. And then you pair that with Unmatched Zeal, so you heal off of it too, and so much value generation. It's filthy. Emperor's Blessing. Perks like this, I feel like not a lot of people really take them. It's definitely like not useless, but I think that I would really like to see, if I were to like make a major change to the game as well in the perk tree, I think that the signature should really be focused around your ability and augmenting the way that your ability behaves in crazy ways. So like this is a good example. This gives you like a major way that your grapnel's augmented for the better, and it synergizes with builds in here. So I think that things like Emperor's Blessing could go bye-bye and like also synergize with something in here. So maybe Tactical Prowess, for instance, synergizes really well over here with Zone of Impact and collateral damage or something like that for a really big offensive grapnel recharge build. And then maybe this one, instead of just being taking lethal damage, restores all armor instead of incapacitating you, maybe it kind of like synergizes something with Restless Fortitude. So after a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. So maybe that synergizes really well with this. Like after a diving kick, so-and-so happens, or you get like a window where you can't die for like a minute to like encourage you to play really recklessly and not care, kind of like a barbarian style of playing. I don't really know. Again, I don't make these games. I'm just kind of like off the top kind of throwing ideas out there. But I think something in that general line would be the right direction to go, instead of just having something that stops you from dying. Give you like a new way of playing, instead of just saying, oh shit, you took lethal damage and you would have went down. Now that ability is gone for 120 seconds. Have it like, I don't know, do something else. Or even on the topic of Barbarian, maybe be like, taking lethal damage restores all your armor, increases your damage, and or I don't know, increases your damage and ability recharge for 30 seconds. Cooldown is 120 seconds or something like that. So that every single time you take lethal damage, you go into like a berserking mode to allow you to just like go crazy on whatever like killed you, like kind of like a retaliation style perk. Maybe something like that would be really cool. I would play that. I think that would make really cool for a build. So anyways. Then we get Adrenaline Rush. Melee kills of Majoris level or higher enemies restore health by 5%. This is a really, really good signature perk, but it is just a little bit stale. I don't think this needs to be here. I think that having Unmatched Zeal is already good enough and kind of makes that a gold standard. It would be kind of cool maybe if we took away the melee kills of it and did like Grapnel Launcher finishers. That would maybe make it less, I don't know, less enticing, because I feel like this is very enticing for people and they kind of like overshadow Tactical Prowess. I don't know if that's true. Obviously I'm me and every other Space Marine player is them, so I don't have like a general consensus of the entire community and what they use. But I don't know. I feel like this, I don't know. It's kind of tricky because it's like really good. It's a really, really good perk. And if you mix it with something like rapid health, when you get like less than 30% health that you regenerate after a significant amount of kills, you get like 7 kills and you regenerate 10% health or whatever it is, and then you mix Adrenaline Rush in there so that you can overheal over that, and then you like go under 30% and heal with rapid health and Adrenaline Rush, and you kind of, it's just so good for sustain. But I just feel like it's a little bit stale. I don't know, like it's just a little bit boring. Like you just kind of get it and there's nothing you really do for it. You do get the melee kill of Majoris level or higher enemies, but I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be something kind of cooler with it. Yeah. But it is really good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to shit on it, say it's like a bad signature. It's super, super strong, but I don't know. And then for prestige perks, I'm just gonna kind of say what I say for all of them because I don't want to make these videos too long and go over like every single one. But things like, I don't know, like this one here, equipment damage increases by 20%. Like we don't need that. We don't need random damage increases. I think ones like battlefield awareness, while it's not like the strongest thing ever, I think these ones are decent because it gives you something to do. If a target is within 8 meters, you do a 10% more range damage. So it kind of gives you like a way to play. When you take battlefield awareness, you always want to like make use of it. So you're kind of getting in close and making use of that. You know, with the equipment damage one, it just kind of gives it to you. It's boring, it's stale, it's not fun, it doesn't add to anything. Things like Indomitable Spirit are good because it gives you a little bit of a survivability option and allows you to kind of work around your gun strikes and not get as punished. Like things like that are useful. Restoration is decent. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores an armor segment. That gives you something to do and it rewards you for it. Things like launch restoration, in my opinion, are like the gold standard. I think that prestige perks should like give you like really cool ways to augment how you play. Instead of just being like, here's 15% health. You know, this is definitely really good, and I wouldn't want to get rid of fortitude, but I'm just using it as an example because it was just in my line of sight as the next thing to talk about. But I just think, like, I don't know, having like different ways to augment your ability and the way to play, I think would be better. And put like lots of these prestige perks like could go, I don't really know where they would go because lots of them are fairly useful, but also I think that if we just got rid of them and didn't, you know, if we never had these in the first place, I don't think people would be crying if they went away because lots of them aren't like super crazy. Like I think Indomitable Spirit could easily be moved into a core perk for most classes. I think that the 15% health increase could be moved into like a perk area here. Obviously you need to expand the skill tree. I don't think this skill tree is like big enough. I think if they added like 3 more sections for core and maybe lessened the effects but added like unique ways to survive and unique criteria to meet for different abilities and like made it more versatile that way, or at least like maybe added another row down here or like another 2 rows or something. I don't really know because, you know, you don't want to go like too crazy with it, but I just think there needs to be more. There needs to be more substance, and I think that if you did add more, like lots of these perks here could go into the perk tree, and then the prestige perks could be used to augment your class in significant ways, and that would make it more useful and more fun to prestige because basically you would get to level 25, you'd reset yourself to level 1, and then you'd basically get a choice out of like, you know, 6, 7, 8 prestige perks, and depending on the one that you pick, you're going to augment the way that you play for the next 25 levels, which I think would make it really refreshing and give you like a new way to play, and then you can kind of synergize that with another 3 as you kind of level up and progress, and then by the time you're in the end, you've got like a super awesome, you know, grapnel launcher that fucking kills, I don't know. Like I'm getting over my head, but hopefully you get the gist of it, right? Like at least this would like augment the way you play, and then these can kind of be more generic. You know, this can kind of like give you buffs and kind of like debuff the enemy depending on how you use the grapple, kind of like affect how you use the grapnel launcher. Team perk is obviously for the team. This one would be like for your general survivability and utility. And then I think that signature should have something like monumental, like change the way you use your grapnel launcher entirely or something like that. And then like new little augments and things like that would be good in like the prestige perks. You know, obviously that's not perfect. There's a lot to buff out there, but just off the top of my head, that's kind of the way that I think that it would work better. It would be more enticing. It would get rid of some of these like crappy perks you're forced to take. Like, yes, battlefield awareness is good, and because it's an option, you take it. But if this disappeared and you didn't know that it was ever there, would you even miss this? I think that's like my biggest thing. Like, you take it because it's the best in slot, but if this was gone, and the existence, what does this even say? Exigency? I don't know. I've never said that word in my life. If this one went bye-bye too, like if most of these went goodbye, I bet you wouldn't even miss them. You wouldn't even miss them, especially if they were replaced by things that actually made the game interesting. You know? So anyways, that's going to be my spiel on that. So hope that you enjoy. And I'll catch you guys in another video. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you here. Definitely go and leave any comments and feedback down in the comment section. What do you think is the good, the bad, and what needs to be reworked with the Vanguard class? Sorry to anybody out there that may not like, incoherently ranting videos off the top of the head, because, lots of this is kind of just rambling. But for those that do enjoy, thank you very much. And we'll catch you in another video sometime soon. And until then, goodbye.